everyone, I'm Kate Theobald. I want to combine two of our readings this week for my reaction post. I want to look at the Developmental Education in Community Colleges by Bailey and Cho to get some statistics, some numbers that I think are really important to look at. I've drawn some of them out so that we can see them visually. I'm a very visual learner, and I think it helps us to conceptualize what we're talking about when we talk about statistics when we can look at it visually. So I have those. And then I also want to look at the DLMN article that was in our book at some different issues that I think could be addressed at the advising level. Advising is what I do in my role here at the University of West Georgia, and I think that that perspective of how can we address the issue of developmental education from an advising standpoint could be really salient to this discussion. So I want to combine those two things. First, I want to look at the numbers. In the Bailey and Cho article, it says that about 60% of incoming students are referred to at least one developmental course. So this means that if 60% are taking a developmental course, then 40% are not. Just to get a visual here, if this is all of the community college students, 60% are in a developmental course and 40% are not. So there's our two groups of students. That equals the 100% of community college students. So just visually you can see right away 60-40 sounds like, oh, that's pretty close to half and half, but there's a big discrepancy here. You can see it very clearly. So a lot more students are referred to developmental education than are not. It goes on to say that less than 1/4 of community college students who enroll in developmental education complete a degree or certificate within 8 years of enrollment in college. So less than 1/4 of our students who enroll in a degree in the developmental courses are graduating within 8 years. And I think that's significant. 8 years. And these programs are supposed to be 1 year, 2 years, sometimes a little more than that when you add in the time that it takes to do the developmental courses. Maybe you're getting into a 3rd or 4th year, but we're looking at an 8-year graduation rate for a degree or certificate. So I think that that's worth mentioning too. But you look at the 60% who enrolled, and less than 1/4, so that's 15% of the total, are actually completing. That's what's in dark blue there. A very big difference visually. And then it says that in comparison, almost 40% of community college students who do not enroll in any developmental education course complete a degree or certificate within the same time period. So here's our students who did not enroll in that developmental education from the first chart. And the 40% of that is about 16% of the total. So you can see that the two groups are about equal, 15% for one and 16% of the other. Combined, that means that 31% of the students, so everything that's in the dark, 31%, are the students who are actually completing the degree or certificate program within 8 years. So that means that all these folks who are represented by the light colored boxes are not doing that. So if we combine that to look at it a little bit more clearly, combine the students that are in the dark colored boxes and the light colored boxes, we get this chart, where here are the students that were in the light colored boxes. 69% are not completing within that 8-year time frame. And there's our 31% who are. Okay? So this is a big issue here. This box should be the one that's really tall, and this box should be the one that's really short. Clearly, we all agree on that. So what are we doing to make that happen? In the Bailey and Cho article, they write that the Obama administration's goal is increasing the number of community college graduates by 5 million by 2020. Okay, and it goes into a lot of different strategies we can use, and there's so much research out there on what different strategies we can use for developmental education. I want to look at this from an advising approach and point to two passages that were in the DLMN article. The first one, under the heading of ambiguity at the margins, it says that some courses were labeled in a way that obscured the class's remedial status, thus confusing students who did not realize these classes would extend their timetable to degree completion and would not count towards their degree requirements. I'm talking about the remedial courses here, that the students didn't really know, because of the labeling, that they were in remedial courses. This to me is an advising level issue. Your advisor should be able to tell you this is a remedial level course and it's not going to count towards your degree. Students should not be left on their own to know that. We need more touch points. When students are registering for classes and choosing their classes, their advisors need to be knowledgeable about this. I think we need more professional development for the advisors and then more contact points between the advisors and the students so that the students aren't confused. I don't think it's a labeling issue, although it might be easier to put remedial in the title of the course. But I think it's also an advising level issue. gives an example on the facing page of courses at the University of Arizona where students go over to the local community college there, Pima College, and take courses, and the numbering is different. And that's true of almost any system. You know, here at the University of West Georgia, our numbering is different from the numbering at West Georgia Technical College to an extent. But again, that's an advising issue. All it takes is the advisor saying, hey, keep in mind, Pima College's Math 122 is actually lower than our Math 112. Simple conversation I think students can have. Another example I wanted to point to, and I know I'm running low on time, was a student named Ayana. When they give a concrete example of a student, says, Ayana is a good example of a student who struggled in her large lecture class but did not go to the professor for extra help because she attached a bad stigma to getting extra assistance. And I think students do in high school sometimes. It is the students who are performing really poorly who are forced to go into tutoring. But at the college level, you're choosing your tutoring. And I can't tell you how many times I've told my advisees, and I'm working with gifted students, so kind of the other end of the spectrum of what we think of from the remedial student. I can't tell you how many times I've told them, look, go to the tutoring center. And college is the smart students who are seeking tutoring. It's not the ones who aren't doing well. And so the ones who are doing well on their transcripts, your transcript is not going to say pre-calculus A, parentheses, only because you went to tutoring. It's just going to show that A. So it's the smart students who are taking advantage of their resources. And it's at the advising level where we can remind our students of this or introduce them to this concept and then let them know what the tutoring services are, where they're located. So it's a really good advisor who's able to have touch points with the students during multiple points throughout the semester. I think some of these issues could be resolved, although that opens a whole other discussion of, how many students are on an advisor's caseload, how many touch points are they actually able to have, and I think that can be fleshed out later. I just wanted to look at this from an advising standpoint and posit the question, could more directed, purposeful advising and more touch points with the students with their advisors, could that make some of what we're looking at on this chart change a little bit? Can we get this bright colored group up, the students who are actually graduating, and get the lighter colored group to be lowered, the students who are not graduating? I think that that's something that is achievable with a concentrated university effort.